Hello, and welcome to the Futurum Tech webcast. This is part of our interview series, and for today's conversation, we're taking it right to LinkedIn Live. My guest today is Jim Newman, the CEO and president of HRizons, and we're going to have a conversation today that talks about the struggles that companies are experiencing as we slowly emerge from the pandemic and how HR tech might just be a solution. So welcome, Jim. It's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to know about your backstory. Tell me a little bit about the path you took to get where you are today.
Sure. Well, my career has always been in human resources and organizational development. But I got introduced to this cloud technology in about 2003 when it was emerging and really saw the opportunity to get into HR tech and cloud. And that's actually what led to me founding HRizons. So I like to see our role as bridging the gap between HR and IT for customers and helping them along their journey to the cloud.
Well, and they're two very different brains, the HR brain and the IT brain. And, I've had customers in both. And, we are in an interesting time where those things have to work together. So having somebody who's wired to think about that, the IT and the HR tech together, I think is really an important part of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not easy for HR to think IT, and it's not easy for IT to think HR. So bringing them together and helping organizations enable them with technology is really what we're all about. So we actually have a lot of passion for that with our customers and just love being in the space. So it's a real passion for our company.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the job market over the course of the last year. I think perhaps roller coaster is, an apt word, but, can you talk with us a little bit about what you've seen in the market and how you feel like the market has been impacted by COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, it's all of us, and certainly my heart goes out to all those impacted by
Yeah.
COVID personally, and it's been a real challenge. I think it really depends on the market you're in. I mean, us being in the U.S., we're in a slightly different position than a lot of countries are right now as it relates to the pandemic. But it really did have a huge impact on jobs. I mean, we saw, the mass layoffs and people being going on unemployment insurance and the different government programs, and so that was a massive change and it really threw companies for a whirl, not just with jobs, but how do you deal with all of these employees that are remaining and they have to, of course, start working remotely. So we saw just a massive change, and then the direct impact us as a business and our sales pipeline changed, and we were very fortunate that projects didn't stop and customers continued needing their software. But it was a huge impact, and I think what we're going to see is the resurgence of certainly recruiting and customers needing to bring employees back. But I think employees are taking a step back right now and they're going, what do I really want? What's important to me? They've had different experiences, whether
Right.
working from home or whatnot. So it's going to be the new normal is going to be different than the old normal.
I think
And
you're, yeah, I
yeah.
think you're absolutely right. I had a conversation yesterday with someone else in the HR field, and we were talking about the fact that, people are leaving jobs in record numbers. So, yes, we had the impact of a pandemic where people's maybe jobs went on hiatus or they lost jobs. But I think to your point, what we're seeing is that the pandemic, navigating through that for really a year, I think caused people to think about how happy am in this job? Uh, do I like working remotely? What's my company doing? Are they shifting to hybrid? Are we going full remote? And it let people really get off the train that we're on so much.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we just get up and get on the train every day and we don't spend a lot of time being introspective. But I think this forced us to sort of reconsider the workplace, our particular role in the workplace, what we like, what we don't like, and so I know that companies are dealing with the fact that employees are leaving jobs in record numbers, and that creates a whole new set of challenges as well.
Yeah, it's a combination of you trying to recruit people back to your company because business is picking up, but you're also dealing with the fact that those that stayed are maybe rethinking
Yeah.
what's important to them, and is this job, and we went from survival mode to hopefully growth mode again,
Yeah.
and that's a transition that's probably going to happen faster in some countries than others, and also different industries. So being aware of your workforce and understanding what level of engagement do they have, and what level of what's their sentiment, and are you listening to your employees, not just one-on-one manager to employee, but what about the overall workforce, and do you have
Right.
a strategy for that? So there's a lot of new challenges that customers have, and I think human experience management versus just capital management is really a big direction we're going to start seeing customers embrace, not necessarily just because it's cool and progressive. That's not a necessity. I mean, what's going to happen to your workforce? And if you can't sustain a workforce,
Yeah.
you can't deliver, and that's going to impact revenue, and everyone's going to take notice, right up to the CEO and the CFO, right? So that's going to be a big deal.
Well, and I think we've been seeing for a few years now the importance that employees place on wellness. And wellness as a whole is many things. It's, mental health awareness and wellness, and it's financial wellness. And so I think companies are seeing, for a long time, and you and I are both old enough that I think that, um, we might have, I know I came up at a time where, you have a job and you're lucky to have it.
Yeah,
And, you've
yeah.
got a 401k and you may or may not get a bonus this year or whatever, but and there was also a mindset that you didn't switch jobs, if you remember this, right? Like if you didn't stay at a job at least 5 years, you had to be, some kind of a risk, right? In terms of hiring. And that's completely changed over the last couple of decades, right?
Well, and,
And
and the gig economy. I mean, it's not
yeah,
just, it's about, I've got skills, right?
yeah,
I have skills that employers need, and I
yeah,
can market myself to various employers. And so it's not just about the traditional job, and it's a
right,
combination of things, right? So I agree with you.
yeah,
It's again part of the new normal, and the different generations that have grown up. They're different
absolutely.
generations, so their ability to access information and explore alternatives is unprecedented.
Right, right, absolutely. We didn't have LinkedIn back in the day.
I was in the newspaper ads on Saturday.
Right. Or you got really desperate and you reached out to a headhunter, right? And it was old school headhunting. And so it really is interesting to see the evolution in the workplace. And I have children who are elder millennials, and watching them navigate the workplace and see what opportunities are available, and see and really evaluate their own happiness, and is this what I want to do? And I think that's important. I think that's great. I think that as I said, we came up at a time where you really didn't get that option, and I was worried about paying a mortgage and feeding kids, so I didn't feel like I had as many choices, and I also didn't have as broad of a skill set, of course, as I do today. So we talked a little bit about, what we see in the market and that sort of thing. Can you share any roadblocks that your customers are experiencing right now as we're, you know, digging out of this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, being able to deal with this type of change and the pace of change requires agility. And organizations, just the structure of an organization and the hierarchical nature of people in organizations, as well as technology and processes and all these things, it gets very, very cumbersome. And if in order to be agile, customers are really realizing that they've got these barriers, and the barriers are a lot of times their technical
Right,
infrastructure and their culture, the rigidity of their culture, their processes. You have to adapt quickly in today's day and age. You need technology that enables you to do that. And customers are seeing the pain points of having multiple disparate systems, non integrated systems,
right,
poor user experiences, which creates poor employee experiences. Which leads to turnover or lack of ability to attract, and then you're not able to take care of your customers. So
right,
it's this real domino effect. And HR is one component of an organization, but HR can play a really impactful role in helping the C-suite understand the importance of user experience and employee experience. And more than ever, HR technology is expanding its boundaries. Right? For example, people think of HR technology, they're probably thinking of, well, there's a database of the people. Obviously, you need that where they live,
right,
right? but and then they you got to hire people, so they do some sort of applicant tracking, recruiting thing, but they don't really think a lot beyond that. Maybe they think about performance reviews, maybe they think about succession planning, compensation, et cetera, payroll benefits. But what they don't really think about, and this is where HR's opportunity is I can actually help the organization create a better work experience. I can bring technology to the table that allows employees, empowers employees to do their work more effectively, more efficiently in a very pleasant virtual environment or at my desk at work. Either way is fine, on my phone. And I have all of this technology that just makes my life easy. Because let's face it, most of the knowledge workers that we're providing the technology for, which is it's a high percentage. Some of the factory floor, the manufacturing,
Right.
they have a limited interface in comparison to the rest. They're spending 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day, like we are right now, looking at a screen doing work. So if we can make that experience better, easier, more connected, and create better experiences, it's going to lead to happier employees and more enjoyable
Yeah.
jobs. So there's a lot that companies can do. There's a gap between seeing that and executing that, and that's where there's the challenge. That's where we can help, right? That's where we can help customers.
Yeah, and it really is that whole journey of employee experience are just little tiny touch points along the way that sometimes companies don't think about and should. I'll give you an example. I had an early morning doctor's office visit this morning. With one of my kids, and we walked into the floor where the doctor's office was, and there's a kiosk right up front, and all I have to do is scan a QR code on my phone, check in at on my own device at my convenience. I don't have to wait online. I don't have to be called up to the front desk. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about your doctor's office experiences, right? And as I was doing this on my phone, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so easy. Like, I'm so glad they make this process easy. Well, there's 100 plus processes like that when you're an employee. Little questions that you have, time off request or questions about benefits or whatever, and it's touch points along the way that can make that easy, that we're seeing really create great employee experiences and cause people to be, I mean, all we want is to be happy, right? We want to be happy. We want to have the routine things that need to be taken care of be able to be done efficiently and expeditiously, and we don't want to think about that, you know.
I think you're really onto something there because when you think about a job, what gives a person fulfillment? Is it doing administrative work? Is it logging into their system? No.
Mhm.
What they want is value and respect my time.
Right.
Right? I've got kids, I've got family, I've got a spouse, I've got obligations, I got volunteer things. I can make an impact in this world.
Right.
If I'm at work being inefficient with poor process, poor technology, spinning my wheels, wasting time instead of doing impactful work, I lose engagement. And so that's the whole point of companies creating enablement, and really then employees feel valued. And it's not because how much they're paid, right, anymore.
Right.
You have to pay market, you have to pay competitive.
Of course.
Am I doing impactful, fulfilled work?
Yeah.
And that is the biggest source of satisfaction or dissatisfaction that exists today, especially with the younger generations, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's and everyone's getting it, right? From the doctor's offices to the huge Fortune 50
Yeah.
corporations and everything in between. The question is, where are you going to fit on the spectrum?
So now I want to talk about something that I admittedly, and as I said, I've worked with HR teams as clients for decades, and I think a lot about the nuances of recruiting and retention and culture and all of those things, and also the role that HR technology plays in in streamlining things both for HR pros and for employees. But one thing I never spent a second's time thinking about job descriptions.
Mm,
And that is something that you've thought a lot about.
yeah, we have,
So
yeah.
tell me about what job descriptions and why they matter so much and the nuances involved in managing job descriptions.
Yeah, it really depends on the lens you're looking through. It's a great question. I mean, we've been working on job descriptions since about 2008, and we actually brought a product to market called JDMS, Job Description Made Simple, in 2016. And we work closely with customers to address this. And there's really different stakeholders. You've got compensation, one of the main stakeholders. They need to take job descriptions and evaluate, analyze them, take certain benchmark jobs to market. They need to make sure that their compensation program is where the company needs to be relative to the market, right? So they can attract and retain people and demonstrate to employees that they're paying a fair wage, right, for the job. There's the compliance side, the legal side, right? You have obligations as an organization, whether it be accommodating people for certain jobs and properly defining them. So there's
Right.
EDA, there's the EOC in the U.S., there's other human rights in Canada. The Canadian Human Rights Commission, I believe, is what it's called, and so on and so forth throughout the world. And so defining a job to fit an employee to that job to recruit for, so that you're not there's different the various impacts you can have on various demographic groups. If you write a job description poorly, right, you might skew it towards males versus females,
Right.
or you might exclude a particular demographic. That's a risk. And so organizations have to be much more careful, especially in today's day and age and how visible everything is, that the job description is well defined. So now you've got compensation, you've got legal, which ties now into the recruiting aspects and attracting people. What is the job? Is it a job I might enjoy? Is it written in such a way where I go, that looks like fulfilling work?
Right.
And it goes on, and from there, the content within the job, how do you evaluate and assess people against that job description? And so now you're in the world of talent management, succession planning, right? Workforce development, learning, developing skills, competencies, education, certifications, licensures. I mean, it's just never ending. So it's a foundational element
Right.
of running an organization. And the problem with job descriptions is it was underrepresented in the world of HR technology. And so you've got job descriptions in Microsoft Word documents, homegrown databases, and
Excel spreadsheets.
spreadsheets,
Uh,
not integrated PDFs.
yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you govern this better? How do you better enable the organization to leverage job descriptions properly? And job descriptions get a bad rap. I mean, it's not the sexy part of HR,
It
right?
is not.
So we wanted to solve all those problems and give a proper platform, properly integrated, and think through these downstream implications of job description management. So that's why it's important. Does everyone care about it? No. You've got to find the right people in an organization, but clearly it is a critical ingredient if done well. And if not, it becomes an Achilles heel at some point in time.
Well, absolutely. And I think that, this is one of those things that, again, it's not sexy. So we don't think about it. But it's like, if you're talking about 25 jobs, or when you're looking at an enterprise that might have hundreds of positions, and not even open positions, right? But just hundreds of positions throughout an organization, and thinking about all of the nuances and all of the details in managing those job descriptions, and equity, and and incomplete job descriptions, and the fact that you've got, like, as you said, you've got the marketing part of a job description, which is the copy that entices someone to be interested in a job, right?
Yep.
But then comparing that across the organization, where you have hundreds and hundreds of roles and hundreds of titles, um, and I think another thing that you didn't mention, that I think is really important, is success factors, SAP success factors, and the fact that that your solution integrates really seamlessly within success
Yeah,
factors.
I'm glad you raised that. And actually, there's thousands of job descriptions that these large enterprises have, not
Yeah.
hundreds, thousands
Yeah.
across 65, 70 countries in multiple languages with multiple jurisdictions and regulatory. I mean, the complexity of managing job descriptions is
Yeah.
underestimated. And the same thing goes with integration to your core HR system and your various talent products. So what we've done with SAP, and we've been an SAP partner since they acquired SuccessFactors. We are actually one of the original
Oh, wow.
SuccessFactors partners. In fact, I think we are the oldest SuccessFactors partner in existence in the world today. Uh,
OG.
yeah, to the OG. Just like me, I'm becoming the OG in my field.
Yeah.
So, so and the platform has evolved so much. SuccessFactors, there's so many integration points. So we've built integrations to Employee Central for the job code to link, and so there's no orphan job codes, orphan job descriptions. IT loves that stuff because they're like, oh, great. Compliance loves that stuff. Legal loves.
Right.
We built integrations to recruiting with a quick requisition feature, which really expedites getting those jobs written, those job ads written properly from a validated source and with quality. We created a new feature called Quick Translate, which helps to customers, these large global organizations, to translate their jobs quickly in and support end users. I mean, if you're in Spain, you don't want to read the job description in English because you want to read it in Spanish,
Absolutely.
the proper
Absolutely.
Spanish, not
Yeah.
Mexican Spanish, right?
Right.
So there's just these nuances to, again, what's the employee experience, what's level of engagement that you can offer if you have the right technology. If not, they're searching for a job description that's out of date in the wrong language, and so on and so forth. So the integration of success factors is huge, and actually that not only improves the user experience, but then it also enables the organization to leverage some of the great content that they've invested in and use it for other purposes, performance reviews, succession planning,
Right.
recruiting, right? And then you get improved quality of hire. So the thing about HR is it's all interrelated. It's like this huge spider web.
Yeah.
I've written it on or drawn it on a whiteboard for my team in workshops. If
Yeah.
you pull all these pieces together, it's so vast. A lot of people from other functions, like a CFO, will go, "I had no idea. Like this is crazy what you have to deal with."
Yeah.
So so HR technology helps to solve some of that and take some of that complexity, simplify it for the end user and job descriptions and success factors and integrating that together. I mean, our product's on the SAP store. It's available. You can research it, tell you
Right.
all about what it does, see videos. It's really been a great partnership and a great offering to help success factors customers properly tackle job descriptions. And that's one thing we do, one of many things that we do as an organization.
Right.
But that's obviously one of our premier products. It's a spotlight product right now in the store. So
Well, and as I'm listening to you talk about job descriptions, it's kind of like I'm a big fan. I'm a strategist, so I'm a fan of building a strong foundation and going from there. And job descriptions really are a foundational part of your HR operations. And kind of thinking of it in that way, and everything kind of flows from that once you've got that done. I think that's kind of interesting.
yeah, for sure, it really is foundational.
So, Jim, are there some companies more than others who might benefit most from using this, or is this an across the board um, kind of HR tech product that's
Sure.
applicable for everyone? Or talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, HR is ubiquitous across companies, right? You need an HR function. There's
Right.
very seldom you hear about a company that doesn't have HR. So you have HR, you need job descriptions, and you have jobs, and you have
Right.
contracts, and all those things that I mentioned earlier. But there are particular industries who pay more attention to it than others. If you're in a highly regulated industry like healthcare, and you have joint commission compliance, and you actually get audited against, do you have job descriptions? What are the essential functions of the job? Are you evaluating people? Do they have the proficiency to perform the job? If you don't, you get dinged and you're no longer joint commission compliant. That's a big deal. So industries like healthcare, really stand out.
Right.
Pharmaceutical, aerospace and defense. There's so many highly regulated industries, utilities. Look at what's happened recently with all the hacking going on, and literally,
Absolutely.
so you have to be really sensitive to those industries, and they tend to be, I would say, earlier adopters. And
Okay.
but all businesses benefit from job description management and governance and having it in control. And we do
Mhm.
have, I don't know off the top of my head, but companies spanning many industries, manufacturing, financial services, the ones I'd mentioned, and so on and so forth. So it really is, many geographies. It's not like, oh, this is just a phenomenon in the U.S. I mean, this is everywhere. Europe,
Right.
Caribbean, Central America, everywhere, Canada,
Yeah.
everywhere that that businesses exist and operate.
Makes perfect sense to me. So, my final question as we prepare to wrap up this conversation is are there any new features or developments that you're excited about? I mean, I know that you're kind of a tech geek like me, so anything new that we need to know about?
Yeah, we're what we're finding is, as we're deploying to these global organizations, and it doesn't mean you have to have 100,000 employees. You could have 3,000 employees and still be global in this day and age, right? what we're finding is that organizations are complex. And so we are working on improving the flexibility of our product to adapt to the various organizational structures we're seeing. You know, one company we're in conversations with has 43 business units, right? All in different industries, different brands, all rolling up to a shared services model. We have a customer that is in I believe it's 48 countries and looking to deploy in more and more languages. And it's features and functions, but it's also flexibility in how we can deploy it. So we're investing in that to make it more adaptable to the various types of organizational structures and what's important to them with brands and user experience. I mean, it may not be one branded company, it may be multi-brand. So these are things that are moving towards our roadmap and are being invested in. The big two features, and I alluded to them earlier, was quick translation, which was a huge investment we
Yeah,
made to make this a global product because that's such a barrier for companies.
it's
And
super important.
oh,
Absolutely.
that's so important.
Yeah.
And then quick requisition. And we did that because the market, we actually were investing in that as the pandemic was happening, not because the market needed it now. We knew that the market would rebound and recruiting would be a big deal.
Right.
So it's available now. We released it earlier this year, or was it late last year? I'm sorry, I can't remember for sure, but it was in the last 6 or 7 months.
Yeah.
And that is something that is going to be really powerful for organizations.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting as well. Well, Jim Newman, I could hang out with you and talk HR and HR tech all day long. I do so appreciate you spending time with me today. And I am so grateful for our audience for showing up. And I will link in our show notes the HRizons website, and so that you can have that information at your fingertips. But Jim, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation, and maybe we'll be able to do it again in the future.
I'm sure we will. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us today. We'll see you next time.
Bye bye.